Hello, and this time on the Mortgage and Protection podcast, Paul Holland from Henchurch Lane is back to cover the last part of our self-employed mortgages episode. Hello, Paul. The last three questions then of our sort of mini episodes.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. Should we dive straight in then?
Let's do it.
Okay, then, first of all, can a self-employed person use income from savings when applying for a mortgage? Now, we might have touched on this in other episodes, but just to confirm.
Yeah. So we actually pushed this one down the list originally because I looked at it and I thought, well, it could be perceived in a couple of different ways. I didn't know exactly how to respond to it originally. So I still don't, but I just bit the bullet and wrote something that I think should tick all the boxes. So it really depends. There's a couple of ways that it can be perceived. So if someone's self-employed and they're asking if they could use income from savings, they could be referring to, let's say, an investment that gives them some sort of return, some sort of interest payments that they would have to declare and likewise pay tax on to some degree as well. If that is the case, then the easy answer to that is probably not. If they're referring more so towards things like pensions, right? Pensions can be viewed as savings, and any pension income can generally be factored into a mortgage application. If you've got a trust fund or you're in receipt of a trust fund, could you perceive that as savings? You know, if you've got that, again, we can use that towards, and we can make that work for you from a mortgage point of view. And lastly, and probably most likely, you could look at it as a way of retained profits within the business. So funds that have built up in the company over the years. So effectively, company savings that you could have access to from an income perspective. If you're referring to those, or if that's what the question relates to, or that's why you're listening to this podcast, then yes, we can utilize those to a degree from a mortgage perspective. It really is quite complex. There's not many lenders out there that will do it, and it's really going to be specific on a case-by-case basis. So if that is the situation, you do have that in the background from a limited company perspective, then the best thing to do is bring that situation to someone at the team and ask how that could benefit you. And is that benefit really worthwhile looking at a lender that uses that versus someone else that doesn't, that's going to give you more benefits in other different ways. So it really is a case-by-case basis. But to answer the question, if it is in relation to those sorts of things, then yeah, we should be able to utilize it to some degree.
Okay, well, clearly explained there. So hopefully that does answer the question for anybody watching this, listening to this. Okay, let's take a look at the next question then. So what should someone do if they have been turned down for a self-employed mortgage in the past?
Right, if you've been turned down for a self-employed mortgage in the past, then that doesn't mean that you will now. It could, and it really depends on the underlying reasons for the decline. So what was the reason? Was it a deal breaker across the board? Or were you or your broker looking in the wrong place at the time? So has the issue been resolved? And could it have been placed at the time regardless? That's what we need to answer. Anyone in my team can answer all of that, the above, within a 10-minute phone call, a small amount of research, and a small document request from you to make sure they're looking at the right information. Better yet, if it really is a case that it currently can't be placed, then they're going to provide you with a roadmap on how you can get to where you want to be. And that could be do this and come back to me in 1 month kind of roadmap, or it could be more like a do this and come back to me in 2 years and we'll revisit it then kind of roadmap. It really does depend on the severity of the situation and what the issue or the underlying reason was for the decline.
Okay, well, hopefully that sounds reassuring there. So hopefully that helps. Now, just lastly then, and to conclude our self-employed mini episodes, the last question here asks, what advice would you give to someone who has only recently become self-employed and is looking for a mortgage?
Okay, so we advise people looking to go self-employed all of the time. I literally had 2 conversations this week with existing clients that were employed, looking to go self-employed. And it's something that we're seeing people become more aware of. I don't know if mortgages are just in the news more, or maybe we've just been shouting about it for long enough that people are questioning us now, So that's a good thing. People want to know if they're going to trip themselves up later by making these sorts of changes. And the answer is they could. So it's always best to investigate. The 3 things that I would say are critical to anybody looking to make this switch are hire an accountant from the offset. If possible, try to time it with the financial year to give yourself the best run at making a decent net profit in year one, and pay your tax. And we'll come back to those three things in a minute. Most importantly, however, outside of those three things is speak with your broker. And if your broker doesn't know much about self-employed mortgages, then seek out someone who does. So self-employed mortgages are way more complex than people seem to believe. Don't assume all brokers are versed in that space, because I can assure you they're really not. But just going back to the 3 points and why I feel that they're the important 3 points to note in this case is, if you are newly self-employed and you don't know how the tax system works, an accountant is going to guide you in so many ways that could literally pay dividends, mind the pun, later on down the line. So are you going to be a sole trader? Are you going to be a limited company? What's going to be best for you and your setup? Those sorts of questions are really crucial in the early stages. And also, they're just going to guide you on how to submit things to HMRC, record income and expenses, and just make sure that you don't have the tax man knocking at your door later on. That's not something that anybody wants. So that's really important. Timing it with the financial year. If you're going to be a sole trader, the financial year runs April to April. If you think then having 6 months, if you start in, let's say, November, December time, you've only got 6 months before you submit your first set of accounts, the likelihood is you're going to earn less in your first year than if you had a full 12 months to go at it. So if affordability is important to you, then that's something that you should try to time. It's not always as easy as that. But if you can, then that would be great. And pay your tax is quite simple. A lot of people will tell us they've earned £50,000, and when they send us their tax calculation, actually they've declared less than that. And then they're questioning why they can't afford the mortgage that they thought they could. You can't put money or income on an application for a mortgage unless you've paid tax on it, I'm afraid. So just bear that in mind. Have a chat with a broker before you look to submit your tax return, just to run some numbers before you start making any decisions, and that should be able to give you the guidance that you need to get what you want.
Okay, well, some great points there to conclude our mini self-employed episode. So thank you for that. Hopefully, these episodes have really helped you out, broken
Yeah,
everything down, all the jargon as well, because there's a lot of jargon involved,
there
isn't there?
is. There
So
is too
hopefully,
much,
yeah,
if you
there
ask
is
me.
definitely. But you've clearly explained all throughout the episodes what everything means. So again, hopefully
Good.
that all makes sense. We will continue to record more episodes on self-employed mortgages. They might just be a little bit more niche and go into a little bit more detail. So look out for them. Thank you once again, Paul, and I'm
You're
sure
welcome,
we'll
Tessa.
speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.